Let's fucking do a check.
Let's make sure. Yeah, let's make sure our audio is fucking on this time.
Are we on?
It says we are live on. There we go. All right. Excuse the F-bombs to immediately start, but we are live now. Let's do this. So, kick it off right. We're here for my first live talking about my friend Dion's first time doing jiu-jitsu. Pretext, we have talked about for months the idea of doing this. Blake and I have been doing it. Blake's been doing it how long? 14, 15 months?
I've been doing it for longer than a year, about 22, a year and 10 months about.
Year and 10, oh, so almost 2 years. Wow.
I've been a blue belt the majority of the time.
Yeah. So, and I'm a purple belt, 3 stripes, and been in
only stripes
over a
in.
year.
Only stripes in. 2 right here.
Okay. 2 right here.
2 for this guy.
So, yeah, and Dion did his very first jiu-jitsu practice tonight after months of talking about wanting to do it. And tell us a little bit again what you were saying earlier about why you wanted it. Whoop.
That's embarrassing.
Our
I
volume
would put that down.
Our volume is working. All right, so we got that figured out. Tell us a little bit about, again, like why you wanted to do jiu-jitsu. What appealed to you a little bit about why you wanted to get into it?
So growing up, my family, we'd always watch Ultimate Fighter and, UFC fights. It was kind of like a family thing, actually. And so I was always a fan of the sport. And then getting older, it became more of wanting to really, for personal growth reasons, improve my self-confidence, improve my strength, improve my self-defense skills, stuff like that.
Yeah. What's the first fighters you guys remember in the UFC? Like, kind of watching fight or like standing out to you?
My older brother and I were like WWE kind of group fans.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we were more WWE.
Hey, if
Eamon's
Eamon's watching that, he'll appreciate it. He's still a WWE fan.
Yeah.
I would say
DMX, by the way, was our guy. We love DMX. Their breakup was tragic for me.
What about you in MMA particularly?
I'd say like BJ Penn for like UFC.
Definitely.
I didn't really follow anything outside of UFC, so I don't know a lot. But
yeah,
seeing the way that he was able to like control his fights and the stamina that he had, and the way that he was like able to just be so creative with his movements was like, for me, like damn, he's a fighter. Yeah,
BJ, and he would have been like one of the early on black belts in jiu-jitsu that really stood out for people on a like marketability level. I also love George St. Pierre.
Oh yeah.
His wrestling was world class. Anderson Silva. Wish he wouldn't have fought Jake Paul, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
You get baited in, you get paid, so
yeah.
At least you got paid. So again, today on Thursdays and Sundays at James White Fitness, which is our gym in Norman, Oklahoma. Shout out James White Fitness and anybody from the gym. Is when we do our beginners class. So I was busy with the Purge, which is our Thursday 48 minutes, 1 minute rounds.
Yeah, and I want to point out how salty I am that I can't do that. But as Andrew was getting to, I do teach the beginners jiu-jitsu at James White Fitness.
Yep.
And I taught Dion tonight. Not a big class tonight. The Purge, I think I slowly started to take it away. And I think I should take that as kind of like a compliment, like, oh, my little birds are leaving the nest now.
Yeah, for sure.
They're all starting to go down to the
you
Purge.
had 4 or 5 that are now like confident to Purge. So.
Right. And they still come in on Sunday as well, though.
Yeah.
So I can't hate on them for getting that extra work in because I am jealous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had about a small class. It was Dion and then a kid named Jaden tonight. So.
Yeah. So tell us, Dion, from your words, what you worked on in general tonight in that hour.
Okay, put me on the spot.
Let's do it.
We really focused on takedowns.
Yeah.
And then kind of a little bit getting into mounts and
we worked a series.
Your basic positions and advancing.
Yeah, we worked a series.
Yeah.
I mean, so like I've seen y'all fight a little bit. I've gone to some of y'all's fights, and I've seen some of the videos of y'all's fights, and so like I expected it to be kind of more intimidating than it was. At least like your class was very Like,
Right.
I enjoyed your class a lot because of the way that you coached
I try
it.
to be very personable because
Yeah.
my experience with being whenever I've not been doing this that long, and I think that really helps with me teaching
Yeah.
so soon. Is because like okay, I'm still very familiar with that mindset. Of, like I'm just new to this.
Right.
What am I doing? Who are these people? I don't like being that close to other people.
Right,
Yeah,
for sure.
You know.
Yeah.
That was one of
So-
the things you talked about too. Is like
Yes.
you have to get comfortable with that intimacy of the sport. Just like you're gonna be in awkward positions, and positions you'll never be in unless you're doing something like this sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. What are we talking about? Me being new. Oh yeah, me like wait, what was it?
Like making it easier to train.
Your
I
training
try to
style,
I
right.
try to make it personable.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Me being so new and also just now starting to teach a class, which I will point out for my credit, I have been a blue belt most of that year and 10 months.
Yeah, because I mean, again, you worked hard in that early stage. You competed a lot.
I sped run it. Yeah, I sped run it.
Yeah.
No.
What would you say, in your mind, what is the hardest thing to pick up when you're first doing a practice? Like, well,
That's
he's
a good
going through
question.
those basic positions, but like, what was the hardest thing to digest when he's just going through that?
So, I feel like it's like a puzzle, right?
Right.
And you're trying to figure out individual pieces, but then also how those individual pieces connect to make a series. And so it was really cool to see how you can break it down. For me, the most difficult part was once you do the takedown, like how to really quickly switch your body to be in a type of, like side control, a mount that allows you to do what you want to do next to finish it off.
Right.
So getting to the transition for me, I'm still working on. I mean, obviously it's my first time, but the transition, I'm a little bit still like slow. I feel like on, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is when they start. That's the biggest thing. Is like you feel so behind when you start a sport like this because you're not trained to make any of those movements.
Right, and like we were saying earlier in the first life, is a lot of it's about building confidence when you first start, and there is a lot of insecurity getting started. And you're just like, I'm afraid of looking stupid.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's every person's reaction. We're just like, I'm afraid of like looking dumb because I'm new to this. All this people have been doing it for this prolonged period of time, and I'm a new guy. So
Yeah, I think one of the things we've also discussed is like, it's very. Let's actually talk about this because you haven't gone live yet, or any substantial or significant way, whether you've gotten a little roll or you're here. But like, specifically, what is most overwhelming to you versus the idea of doing a practice in general to now what the next step might be in practicing? Like the idea of competing or doing a live with other people. What are your thoughts right now when it comes to thinking about that?
My thoughts are, let me get through a couple weeks of just learning some moves, some basic fundamentals.
right.
And then we'll look at, we'll reassess. But I felt great afterwards. I felt like, cause like my mind, a lot of the work that we do, like our 9 to 5 type stuff,
Right.
your mind's always going, and you never get a chance to shut it off. And so, like for an hour, like I got to only focus on one thing,
Right.
Yeah.
and zone everything out. And it was like kind of like a nap in a way.
Yeah.
A reset,
Yeah.
really. I don't know. It's weird because
Right.
you're working all the muscles in your body, but like
Right.
your brain is really kind of relaxed almost in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, personally, whenever I first started, I felt like there was too much to focus on when I was doing jiu-jitsu to worry about anything else. There's just so much
Right.
to learn, right? Like you're just like I told you guys tonight, like halfway through the class, I was like, I'm sorry I'm bombarding you guys with all this information tonight, but it's all relevant to whatever you do, right?
Right.
It's all going to lead to something else. Like all these grips and stuff, you're going to use them again.
How long did it take you before you felt confident to go live when you first started?
Okay, so whenever I first started going live, I wasn't really confident to go live. I had an excuse for my first 2 days because I didn't even have plans to do jiu-jitsu. I joined the gym to do Muay Thai and kickboxing,
Right.
and
Yeah.
now I hardly ever do that anymore.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, Muay Thai kickboxing used to be my guilty pleasure, but now I'm like I've got to focus on what I'm good at right now, what I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, but to go live, I was like I was never really confident. It was always I had that anxiety of like I don't know what to compare it to, but I would say it was almost like going live for your first time is almost like your first match because you're like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Right. You're
I don't
very
know what to
anxious.
expect.
Like, yeah.
I don't really know these people that well, so I don't really trust them. So like I didn't really want to go live. My first 2 days, as I was saying, I had the excuse of like I didn't have a mouthpiece. And then I felt the peer pressure of like, I felt bad not going live. I was like, everyone else is doing it. So I was almost like peer pressure of like trying to join in. And so I was never really ready. I just hopped in there, and then I haven't stopped since. So.
Right. So, like, and that's the thing I was telling you is like everybody feels that their first time they go live is this idea of like, oh my gosh, that's the actual people are gonna fight back.
Right.
That feeling is a very overwhelming.
And if you've never gotten a fight before in your life, you know.
And have you before this?
I was a menace to society. I definitely cannot say no. But yeah, I wish I would have known what I know now.
Y'all keep talking. I'm gonna grab our dinner while we talk.
Oh, it looks good.
So talk a little bit more about what you did in practice.
Right. So I started off practice like I do every day, or every practice where I like to ask my students or people who come in. I don't want to say students because I'm not a professor in jiu-jitsu. I'm just a guy. They're like, oh hey, I'm a little better at this than you right now, so let me help you. Figure out what I know. But I like to start every class that I teach with like, what problems do you have? What questions do you have? What problems did you run into this week in your roles? What positions did you get stuck in? Like you just need tips to get out of because you just kind of hit a wall. So what do you need to work on? So we started off with that. There were no questions this week. Not a big class. Sunday will hopefully be bigger. It usually is. But so we started off with that. No questions, and then I just decided I was going to run a series. So we started off with a double leg. And me, whenever I first started jiu-jitsu, I had no previous combat experience. I didn't train martial arts at all,
Right.
And a lot of my wrestling came from Andrew. Whenever he first joined the gym, I didn't start wrestling until the very end of my white belt career, in the the beginning of my blue belt career, which I wish I would have started a lot sooner, but I didn't. But a lot of my stuff comes from him. So when I'm teaching this double leg, I'm just thinking of like what things and tips that he gave me whenever I first started learning that really helped me out to learn.
Yeah.
Like really clicked with me. Because
how long have you been teaching the beginner class?
Ooh. Well, I've been coaching since last February, right before I got my blue belt. I just got a regular cheesesteak.
Wait,
I don't know what that is.
so maybe this is mine because.
Hey,
Well,
is yours wild?
Oh, I got the buffalo stuff.
Yeah, that's you then.
And
And then mine's extra cheese. Cool.
Food. Keep talking, man. I got mine right here, buddy.
So,
Well, what I was saying, I first started coaching whenever last March.
Right.
Right before I got my blue belt. And I did start the beginner's class. I started, I want to say it's been like 4 months or less. I don't know. But time flies quick, so, especially when you're having fun.
yeah, for sure.
Hi, Panther.
So, how long did it take you to do your first tournament?
Not very long. Not very long at all.
James is pretty good at convincing people to compete.
Yeah, well, you think James is bad.
Subtly.
You think James is bad until you meet Andrew, so. He's terrible.
Yeah, James got you to compete. I got you to sign up for the Olympic trial bracket.
We're not talking about that.
Less than 1 year in.
No, literally.
No, let's talk about it. What does that feel like compared to a regular tournament for your first time type of? Because that's what this conversation is about. First
Well, I
time.
just got my blue belt, and you had to have your. I don't know if you had to have your blue belt to compete or not. I don't remember.
Right.
But I just got my blue belt. I'd been training probably at that point 8 or 9 months. It was the beginning of last year, and I had no wrestling. I didn't have any wrestling, and the rule set was supposed to be very wrestling based, I believe.
Right.
Because they were almost.
They wanted to push the action.
Right, a little bit like ADCC, where they just want to push the action
Right.
for it. But it had a really weird rule set. But I went in there and I fought I was unlucky enough to be a 8-month blue belt, baby blue belt, and fight the guy that actually won that trial first. And he darced the shit out of me, I think. I don't like watching my losses.
He wrestled.
He wrestled the hell out of me. Yeah, it was not a very long match. But, yeah, and he literally darced me. I tapped, I looked at Andrew, and right away, and I was like, holy fuck. On camera, because it was live streamed.
Yeah.
It was the Olympic trials, it was a live stream, so if you saw that, sorry, but I did my best.
What did that feel like though, doing that? What was your nerves like before that versus a regular tournament?
Well, it was one of those moments where I was just kind of doing it for fun. So it was I didn't have any nerves, so it makes you stress about not being nervous, because usually when you're not nervous, that's when you do the worst, in my opinion. That's when I do the worst. If I'm not worried, then I end up getting lazy, I make a mistake quick, and it usually doesn't go my way.
I'm definitely more when I'm not nervous, I do better.
Right. But I'm not a very confident person to begin with, like especially with my jiu-jitsu and stuff.
Right.
So that's not
Yeah,
really
beautiful.
one comfortable.
So on that note, like, you know, when you tell people about doing the sport, I say it all the time, like 30 days, 60 days, 6 months in, you're gonna feel like a different person. When did you feel like you actually shifted in how you felt as a person?
As a person?
Yeah, like what did the sport, you know, getting on the mat, how did you feel the day for the first time? Like let's simplify, just what did that achievement feel like after practice and kind of just a sense of self?
Like an inner strength, like knowing that you can, or like an inner, yeah, like an inner strength that you don't really tap into, but realize now that you can tap into.
Right.
Mhm.
So same thing for you, like when did you feel like, now that you've done it, you know, 2 years, he's done day one, what did that feel like for you as you kind of got into, like where was the actual shift mentally and physically, emotionally that you felt like, wow, I'm not even the same person from when I started this sport?
Probably my second tournament, probably.
Which was how far in?
It would have been 6 months in. Yeah, 6 months exactly. Like a little under 6 months by a few days, but it was 6 months in. It happened to be in Naga. So I was really on the top. I got lucky enough. I was on the top end of that actual first bracket. Where I was like, yeah, I've been training almost 6 months, so I'm good.
Right.
You know, whereas the guys I fought, they could have been training like 2 weeks. You never know.
Yeah.
Because I just, I mean, you asked me about like what got me competing, is how I felt when I first competed, or like what made me decide to compete. Is whenever I first started doing this sport, I said I would never compete. I was doing it for myself.
Right.
And then it was not very long for James White to kind of like he just like has a way of like inspiring people just to kind of follow him.
You lose that focus on just your sense of self, and
right. He brings you in and like he makes you feel like a part of like a bigger thing.
there's a part of that, what you said earlier about you come in worried about what everybody thinks about your skill set and like whether I'm gonna embarrass myself or look stupid. And the irony is that shifts as you just get better at it and consistently. It's like nobody's gonna force you to compete, but you'll in a way feel like I've gotten good enough that why wouldn't I want to represent these people,
Right.
because I love being a part of this team. Like that really just, I mean, I feel like that you see that with a lot of our novices and stuff. There's people that like every time they come in and for the first 2 or 3 weeks they're like, I don't see myself doing a tournament.
Yeah.
And then
Every
month 2, 3 weeks later, they're literally like,
that was month 2.
I think I'm gonna sign up for this one. Or they're a little hesitant, and we all look at them like, maybe. And within 3
Right.
days, they're like, I registered.
Well, I will say this, here's the difference James has. I came in at 185 pounds. At
Right.
least when I first started training.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had been there about a month or so, and James looked at me and he was like, so you gonna do this tournament in August, or not August, or like end of July, I believe is what it was. Time frame doesn't really matter all that much. But him asking me that and me being like, I guess, I don't know. There was no part of me that was gonna say no to James at that point, because
Right.
being there because I went every single day.
Yeah.
Every single. I'm still pretty.
Yeah, when you started,
I'm
you,
really
you
close.
committed.
I might miss like a day or two a month. It's very rare that I miss unless I really have to.
Right.
But there was no part of me that was gonna like say no or deny that. And like I could say whatever I want, but there was that part of me deep down inside was like, I want to be a part of something. I want to do that. Right.
Yeah, something bigger than you.
So I was like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, what weight are you doing? I was like, I'm pretty fat right now. So, and he's like, and I told him my weight, and he was like, you don't want to fight those guys. He was like, you need to get down to 160 to compete. Sorry, it says Philly cheesesteak.
Shout out to, what is this? Pardon my cheesesteak?
Part of my cheesesteak.
In Norman, Oklahoma.
Ironically,
They're not a sponsor, they're just good dinner.
That was a good commercial. Post on your Facebook.
Right.
But yeah, and he's like, you need to get down to 160, and I dropped 20, 30-ish pounds like in a month. I was like, okay, fine, enough said. And I haven't been like above 165 since.
Right. That's the one thing I told him. He's like,
How
he was
do you
like,
do that?
yeah.
It was just I was like, I have to lose weight. And I was
Practice
like, okay.
too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a part of it.
And-
but like, add the,
right.
what some of the extra steps there?
Well, I was so a lot of running and like working out. Ironically enough, not ironically enough, because I think everybody has this kind of like what's what I'm looking for? kind of like a myth almost, where it's like whoa, martial arts is for the smaller guy, you know, so it doesn't really, you don't really have to like lift weights and like be big is what I was thinking.
Right.
Like, do it, which is true if you're fighting somebody who doesn't have any training. When they're skilled as you and like your going, it's a completely different story, right? This is give you the edge. It's not going to give you an edge. It's not going to completely eliminate weight as a factor overall. It's not. Or size. It's not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish it would, because I'd be getting thrown around a lot. When somebody bench presses me out of mount, I have that thought. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
Here I am, just a little baby playing airplane. But
yeah, people who don't train often think that just like.
well, it's one way or the other, right? Yeah. Either they think it's not real, it's not going to work. I just see red. I'm going to swing and you're going to fall.
Right.
Or it's like,
is it Bradley
or they're like, yeah, brother, I'm 260,
I'm
brother.
260,
I'm
bro.
260, brother. But it's either that guy or it's the guy that's like, well, if I do this, I can beat anybody. John Cena, watch out. It's like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
That's not gonna. Yeah, it's not. It's
I've
not.
got that dog in me. I've just always had a chin.
Yeah.
so
Hey, the absolute.
I got in one fight in 3rd grade.
Right.
And I know I have a chin.
The absolute bracket's not an even playing field. Right?
Yeah.
It's not. I've been there.
Yeah.
It's a meat grinder for sure.
So again, let's back up a little bit. Like, you guys, what did you guys work again? Like, I was grabbing the food a bit. Like, what did we do tonight at practice while I was purging?
The double legs we started out with. So you
Okay.
can talk about your thoughts on double legs, and kind of like how that was for you learning that for the first time.
I enjoyed it because the takedown aspect is a little bit more reachable than I expected it to be.
Right.
I know it's gonna take a lot of practice though.
It is work.
You know.
Yeah, it is working. That's the thing about it. Like, is that people don't want to. I was that person. I didn't want to do it when I was a white belt, so I'm playing catch up now.
Yeah.
So you mostly stay standing when like you're in your matches or
You always start standing.
but I mean
Yeah.
you didn't usually do takedowns at the beginning.
I played a lot of upper body, like front headlock, because that's what we're known for. Because when I first started, James he just got really big into front headlock.
Yeah, I feel like when people start, there's a part of them, you're not confident in shooting, especially. If you have zero skill, a lot of times you go in playing
Right.
defense versus playing actual offense.
Well, that and if
So a lot of it becomes this, like, you're both grabbing each other and white knuckling it,
right,
holding onto the head, and things like that. So,
and everybody's just waiting for someone to shoot at that level.
right, so you
And
gotta
those
wait for
shots
somebody to take
sucks.
a bad shot, and then you
Yeah,
just, like,
it
catch
sucks
their
to
head
nail
and look
that
for you.
shot.
That's, like, the most common white belt match I think that you could really think is, like, they're gonna tie up, and they're just gonna hold on to each other for a second. One of them's gonna lunge for a bad shot, the other one's gonna catch their head and get a guillotine, or take their back and get a rear naked choke. That's, like, the most common white belt match I can think of that happens. Sloppy shot to a choke.
My
Because
first
you
match
just
this
hung your
year-
head and don't know what an actual shot is, which is why I talk about you gotta lift your head when you take the shot, things like that.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Yeah. So, and I mean, even on that note, like as a wrestler, I learned those repercussions. My first matches, like my very first match on my page, like when I did that tournament, like 2 weeks into training, James gassed me up. Was like, "Yeah, you're gonna do great. You're a wrestler. You're gonna be awesome." And then he asked the tournament if I could like do one of the beginner brackets. They were like, "No, he was a wrestler. He's got to do the expert bracket." So I did the expert bracket after like 2 weeks of training submissions, and I immediately got an ankle pick, and then went in, and the guy caught me in a guillotine, and I was just like, "Oh no, he got me in a triangle. He got me in a triangle," and I was literally just like, "Well, I'll be fine. He's not pinning me."
Yeah, you busted your.
And so I just hung out there, and my eye, the blood vessel in my eye popped. So I had like a purple eye for like 4 weeks after that.
Well, maybe not tell him about this while we're trying to get this. Maybe leave that part out.
That was my stubbornness as a wrestler,
Yeah.
just thinking that I would be able to just like survive it versus like having to escape it.
Yeah,
Because
I'm guilty of that too. I'll try to hold on as long as I can. He
right.
almost choked me out last week, I think. That
Yeah.
Foley choked me out on contact.
Well, and that's the thing is like, what did it feel like getting submitted for the first time?
In a tournament?
In general.
In general, it's not so bad because I know I'm the new guy, so I'm not pressured to, I think if anything, a lot of times I tapped early.
Right. That's what it's on him too. It's like early on, you're confident, you
Yeah.
just don't know. You're like you just better safe than sorry. You just don't know. Oh yeah, where am I?
Right. So I mean, in
Like,
the
you
first
figure it
first
out.
time during a tournament, it was like, it was that same tournament I got submitted in my first match with a triangle, right? And it was just, I don't know, it sucks to have like Because you have the team there, and you're like, I'm doing this for the team. You don't want to disappoint anybody.
Right.
That's the worst part about it. That's the worst thing about being a grown adult and then being worried about disappointing people. Like, you're letting them down when in actuality they're just happy you're there.
Right.
But I guess I went the first time and like I just needed a second. And I still do. If I have rough matches that I feel like I could have won and I lost. It wasn't just absolutely outclassed. I just need to sit in the corner for a moment. Like, just don't talk to me right now. Just let me process it. So it was very much like that. I was close to tears for sure.
Yeah.
It's a very vulnerable and emotional thing to be doing anyways. So.
Yeah. So you asked a question earlier, what was it about the gym in particular? Oh, affiliates, like talking in general and just kind of like how the dynamic of gyms work in jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's, for anybody who's just getting into jiu-jitsu, that's a fun conversation, I think, in a way. Because my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu when I got into it was the legacy of it. Like, if you think about wrestling being one of the oldest Olympic sports, one of the more exciting things, one of the things that's missing from that is the idea that you can't track all the way back to the original wrestlers in the Olympics who trained who. Like, it's just too convoluted of a sport at this point to do that. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in particular, and even just Jiu-Jitsu, there's a lineage of black belts you trained under. And it's very much a pedigree that's tracked as a lineage and generational. And so we can absolutely say that, James being the first black belt that we're under in our gym, it's before him, it's Alan Moeller. And then before him, it's Cavalcanti. And then it gets from there into the Gracie family. But like the Gracies at that point founded Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when it comes to the lineage of the sport. So we can track all the way back to the beginning of the sport, our black belt lineage. And that is a really exciting thing. But in an affiliate manner, to kind of oversimplify that, like our story, I won't tell James's story on camera right now, but like he trained under Alan Moeller years ago, life happened, went into doing jobs and stuff like that, eventually came back around to the sport, and when he started his gym here, we were just training. Like, he was a blue belt, I think, at the time, which is even crazier to think about, because he just had stopped training consistently under a black belt to get promoted. But he had done all kinds of pro fights, or amateur and pro fights, and had a decent MMA career.
He was both.
Then life happened and stuff, and as he started his career, he didn't have the jiu-jitsu, belt system behind him at that point where he's a black belt just starting a gym, like kind of your typical example of people who go through the sport. So we did our handful of tournaments and stuff, and we ended up going to a tournament in Dallas, and he, again, got back in touch with his former professor who talked about, hey, are you guys affiliated? And what I mean by that, again, is like that lineage. Are you connected to some extent to that lineage under a gym? And he essentially was like, we haven't been, I just started this gym, but I haven't been under anybody since you, professor. And because he had just kind of been like sporadically training in different places. And so, long story short, we got affiliated with teammohler again, full circling his relationship from training under him years ago. And now he's a black belt under teammohler, but that means, at this point that we're a part of that brand. Sure. James White Fitness is a Moeller affiliate, but our lineage represents them essentially in that way. Whereas, and people who set up affiliates or something like that, it's all kind of different, and more illustrious ones have more stringent requirements and have to make you pay into it and stuff like that. But, we're very much, what I love about James's gym in particular is it reminds me a lot of like my high school wrestling team, because I started wrestling in 2004 and our school was founded in 2003.
Oh, wow.
So I was the first full, I was the second class to graduate after going there 4 full years, because it was such a young school. And because of that, I was the second state champion in the history of the school. Right. Both as a wrestling team, and I was only the third state champion across all sports in the school. And so it was just that starting that lineage and that legacy for a team is a really special thing that isn't the same thing as, coming into just a giant commercial or a gym that has 1,000 different gyms around the country. Like, you're building something. And that's what we come back to, like, when it comes to competing, there's a part of you that realizes that after a few weeks or a few months in a gym like James's gym.
Right.
Where you realize, wow, I'm not just doing this because I want to defend myself. But there's a part of me that's now like wanting to be a part of something bigger because
Right.
they're building this
I'm a
here.
trail. Yeah. You're a trailblazer right now.
Yeah, we're not B team. We're not your new ways where you just have a bunch of black belts and higher belts, brown belts. I was the very first purple belt in the gym. We have what, 3 purple belts? 2 purple belts?
2.
Me and Tristan, and then we have a brown belt now. So, but like our lineage under James is still very young and growing, and it's a really special thing to be a part of.
James got his
capacity.
black belt like not that long ago.
Month ago.
Yeah.
Well, January. Yeah. Well, time flies. But yeah, 3 months ago.
Speaking of professors, let's bring it back to me. Let's hear about your first day in my class.
Yeah, let's talk about
I mean, well, what else do you want to know?
Well, we talked about double legs, right? And that feeling of like, okay, first learning double leg. I mean, and I taught a series and I was a double leg. We went to side control off of that, which is pretty basic series. And then we went to the James White Fitness patented hip control. What do you remember me talking about to you from me actually demonstrating that for you, and like the tips I gave you, and what you thought was most helpful, and like what it was like hearing like the actual positions for the first time?
It was helpful, like watching you go through it at different speeds, multiple times
Right.
first, and then, I would say like, for me, well, my right knee is like red as hell.
Right, because I had you guys do some shot drills
The
before we
shots,
started.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like it's blazing into my head, heels, toes, knees. It's
What's most sore right now?
It's like the opposite of that sexy red zone. Knees. Well, we don't need to bring that.
What
up.
sexy red song? I haven't heard it.
Knees.
He's like 12 years
I don't
old.
Right.
Is this a recent?
All I know is head, shoulder,
young.
knees, and toes.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
It's
maybe I'm
like
the old one and
basically
outdated.
A remix of that, but like a sex song. But anyway, so that's ingrained into my head. So I we went through that a couple times, just like that segment of it, and then
Yeah.
we did the actual full takedown. Well, I mean, we did the full double leg and went to side control and trying to do the windshield wipers and then the grapevine with the legs and it was you get why the names are called what they are when you're going through it. It actually makes sense.
As I told you, the good thing about the fundamentals of Jitsu is like the names are very practical, that they describe what they're doing.
Right. What was the hardest move that you did today and the easiest move you did today?
The easiest move was the shots because that was the easiest. Yeah.
Whoa.
It was the easiest move, like as far as like
Understanding it.
mentally.
Right. Yeah.
But not like my quads need some.
That was my second question. I said, but we were
Yeah.
both all talking. Like, what's most
But
sore
the
right
mo-
now?
Yeah,
my
my little
quad-
changes hurt.
Yeah, definitely my quads. Like I tried to run a minute ago, and it wasn't happening. But I guess the most difficult part, like mentally, is when you have the mount, and you're trying to go from like grapevine to, really switching to an armbar.
Right.
Like I said earlier, that transition is so. Cause I'm like really thinking about, okay, I got his head, and this dude, Jaden had some long hair, so I'm like,
Jaden does have some long hair.
I can't even grab it. How I need to grab it? And it's like, okay, I need to. Which part of my hand do I? So it's just
Right.
like getting to a point where you can figure out, where by heart how to move your body, but then also getting to a point where you're not thinking about how to move your body.
Right.
It's just flowing.
Right, and we did get into that tonight. I also do like to have a little bit of conversation going on, just like get your guys' opinions, and just talk about the sport in general, right? So I was kind of familiarize you guys with it
Right.
in like a conversational setting and a physical setting.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to.
But
So on that note, like, where you want to keep doing it, right? Where
I want to keep practicing.
yeah,
of course.
He's not the commit competing.
Yeah.
He's like, I
Well,
want to keep doing.
Before
exactly
he went
this.
today, he was like, "I'm not promising I'm going live." Like, he was really hesitant. And then we get in the car, and he's like, "Maybe when I go live." Like, it was all very hypothetical, but it became very 50-50 immediately, and it was like, not a conversation before practice.
Well, look, I'm not about to be out here at no Naga like.
Yeah, not yet, but
I've literally said the
It's gonna
exact same
happen.
thing you're saying right now. Literally.
We'll see.
We'll come back and watch this video when it happens. So where do you hope to be 6 months and a year from now if you were to continue doing this sport?
Confident in my abilities to, understand the fundamentals. That's all I'm gonna say because I'm not gonna.
That's typical Dion. Dion's not gonna overextend himself on this objective.
Well, that's
this
a good
is
objective. Because
we got receipts if we pull this back out on.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
As James White says, fundamentals win fights. So what I'm hearing is he might be competing. That's
what
how I bring that all the way back around to you.
If that's what you hear.
I can't wait for us to go back and watch this video when you get your blue belt.
There you
Because
go.
that's gonna be a fun moment.
I don't even have a white belt.
You don't have it yet, but you're officially a white belt once you consistently are doing the sport. In my mind, at least, like you don't get promoted to white belt from nothing. You just are one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's not a day. I mean, you just like, hey, you've been here long enough.
If you want to be cringy, you can say the hardest belt to get is your white belt.
What do you say? What
The hardest thing to do is start.
Hey, facts.
Well, I will be honest.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's not my quote.
Because and we should be honest, because so today was my first I would say official start date, because I actually signed the waiver and gave James my life.
Yeah,
but
I wish. Yeah.
But last year we went on a road trip, and before we went on the road trip, we stopped by the gym, and I did do kind of 1 day of practice.
Get a little taste of it.
Yeah.
But it took me November, December, January, February, March. It took me 5-6 months to actually get back in the gym. So
yeah.
So I get what you mean. Starting is the hardest part, because especially if you go sporadically,
You feel awkward.
you're not really building that momentum.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the easier it is. There's really no other way around it. And the more you honestly just you need to do it. You want to do it. There's a part of you that for me, again, when we get back to that last point of kind of you mentioned just today doing a beginner's class and drilling the moves, how much you can separate everything else going on in your life. And that's why I talked about why I love lives even more, is because you can drill the move, but even after a certain point, the moves your brain can slow down enough to think about doing the move and everything else going in your life when there's not a full-on reciprocation and defense. So for me, lives are painting. That's where you get to settle down and just go. Have fun and get used to the idea of what the counter is to whatever you like doing or think you could do.
Right, and there's several times you and I get in there, we look at each other, we're just ready to go live right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it all.
And some days it doesn't even mean you want to go super hard and go live.
Right.
But that flow roll is where you get to be painting.
Right.
And for me, that's my Bob Ross moment. It's just happy little accident. I don't care if I get submitted, but let's figure out how to learn from it.
And I personally as well compare it a lot to dancing. And it's just a very creative thing to be doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And for sure.
So, all right. Well, on that note, anything else you guys want to add? I think this is a good half hour we've been talking.
What do you rate my beginner's class?
What do I rate?
1 to 10?
1 to 10. 1 to 5.
1 to 5. There you go.
Let's do 4, because you didn't give me no anaconda guards for my knees. you didn't warn me.
I did have a spare one too.
He does have a spare one.
I have two. I keep 2 on me.
I think you wanted me to.
I'm gonna give you a class of 4
4
because you didn't make him go live again.
Wait, hold up. So before we actually went, part of the conditions of me going was saying
No, it really was.
No one's gonna make me go
The
live.
the
So I
last
knew
2
you
days,
were
the
gonna say
conversation was where he's like, "I'm not going live. They're not gonna make me go live. Are they gonna guilt me to go live?"
Listen, I
He's
don't do lives on Thursday anymore because James promotes it as a way to get away from lives. He's like, if we're gonna go live down here for the purge,
Yeah,
or want to go upstairs
or you go upstairs with Blake.
Coach Blake.
Yeah, but tomorrow is a regular class, and you're gonna do that one, right?
I mean, we were talking about
No, you're gonna do
going
that
to the
one.
next
You are gonna
beginner
do
class
that.
on Sunday.
No, well, after
One of those
Friday,
days.
you get Saturday off.
See, I'm already lumped into this contract.
Hey, you get your 7-day trial right now. You gotta use all of it.
I guess.
But all right, so we'll keep talking about this and see where it goes. And,
Yeah.
But that was a good fun first live. So if you tuned in, thanks for joining us. Follow,
BJJ_Blake.
and then I guess in depth with Dion right now.
I mean, yeah.
Just find Dion on all the things.
social media.
And then andrewsartainbjj. But great night, everybody. Enjoy your evening and
Get some sleep.
shoot the jits.
Shoot the jits when you have sleep.